How's it going, everyone? Data here, and welcome back to the Pittsburgh Penguins franchise mode, episode number 13, headed into the 2026 offseason as Stanley Cup Champions. In the last one, it was an incredible postseason where we swept through Sorokin and the Islanders in round number 1, swept through Shesterkin and the 53-win Rangers in round number 2, took down the Lightning in 6 in the Eastern Conference Final for the second consecutive year, and then in the Stanley Cup Final, by the way, making it there in consecutive years for the 4th time in franchise history, we faced the Western Conference champions in the regular season and the postseason, the Minnesota Wild, and we took them down in a 5-game series, winning the Stanley Cup on home ice for the first time in franchise history. I hadn't realized that. This was the Penguins' 6th cup in their franchise's history, yet all of them previously had been won on the road. So hey, we got to bring one back to Pittsburgh. Leon Draisaitl won the Conn Smythe Trophy, scoring 29 points in 19 games in his first year as a Penguin. After having won the cup with the Oilers, beating the Penguins in year number 2, he comes to Pittsburgh here in year number 3 and wins the cup, plus the Conn Smythe to boot. Alex DeBrincat scored 26 points, Gensel 21. Crosby at 38 years of age scored 19 points in 17 games, and down the list we go for the point totals. Of course, between the pipes, our Conn Smythe runner-up, Mackenzie Blackwood, 16-3-0, 2 shutouts, a .918 save percentage, and 2.46 goals against average. He was incredible. Now with the postseason over and our squad having included many older players, we will be seeing a bit of a refreshment in terms of personnel and even just in age, getting a lot younger heading into this next season, because the average age of our squad was 34 and a half, the oldest team to win the Stanley Cup in NHL history. Taylor Hall likely moving on. Evgeny Malkin, he's got to come back, but Jason Zucker, Blake Wheeler likely not coming back. Ryan Suter, who still hasn't retired, he won his cup at 41 years of age. He won't be coming back. Phil the Thrill Kessel ended up calling it a career, as well as Chris Letang, the first of our core 3 that we came here to Pittsburgh to win a cup with, has retired. We just squeezed it in. Crosby and Malkin are still here, but Letang no longer going to be a part of the Penguins organization as he retires. Number 58 going to the rafters. But let me know your thoughts. Should number 81 also go to the rafters for Phil Kessel? I have to think about that. So headed into this offseason, we don't have a ton to do for the forwards, because I do think that a lot of those spots that were held by these older players, Zucker, Wheeler, stuff like that, with the progression of prospects like Berkeley Catton likely moving into the top 6, DiMaio, Yeager, even Pickering on defense, a lot of these younger guys who are now 21, 22, they're in those 70 overall ranges, they've been putting up good AHL numbers, they'll get their shot in the NHL. Worst case, we go out and look at other options, but most of our openings are going to be in the bottom 6, and that's where these younger players will go. Our top 6 still continues as the first line of Draisaitl. Let me look at forwards here. Draisaitl, DeBrincat, Gensel. Second line, I believe Crosby can still maintain second line center. He's probably playing with Brian Rust and maybe Berkeley Catton, who's already an 83. He wasn't fantastic in the postseason, but I think I'll chalk that up to rookie nerves. Third line is Lundstrom, maybe Malkin, and that's about it. That leaves 3 or 4 spots in the bottom 9, I guess you could say. The first line is locked, but second, third, and fourth line, I'd say there's 3 or 4 spots, and that will allow depth players or younger players to come up in the line. But on defense, that's a different story. Josh Morrissey and Aaron Ekblad, that is our top pair locked in. Just like our top line, our top pair is locked in. Now that Letang has retired, Ekblad will play on the top pair. Zadorov still likely good enough to be a second pair guy, but that leaves the right side of the second pair and probably the right side of the third pair as well open. Ian Mitchell can play 7th D. Ty Smith is probably third pair left, and that leaves second and third pair right. Yes, Ian Mitchell could play third pair right, but we want Owen Pickering to come up. So really, I think the biggest target this offseason is a top 4 defenseman who would preferably play on the right side of our second pair. We also spoke about, will we be looking to move on from Blomqvist because Blackwood's been so good. Blomqvist is going to be growing in overall. He wants to spread his wings and fly. I wouldn't say that we're looking to shop him, but if the right thing were to come up during the draft or off season, we are considering moving him to another team to allow him to flourish. But without getting into too much detail on what my thoughts are on this off season and what our plan is going to be, let's dive into the comments and see what the assistant general managers had to say. Starting off with Scott, who said that was utter domination in the postseason, just completely destroying the Russian Olympic goalie gauntlet, and in the same depth chart position too, going Sorokin, then Shesterkin, then Vasilevsky, forgot to mention Vasilevsky as well, of course, and securing one more cup for that core. What a coincidence, eh? Shedding some more light on cool numbers here, Scott says that Sid, Gino, and Letang became the 9th, 10th, and 11th players to win a cup in 3 different decades, joining Clapper, the Richard brothers, Beliveau, Nieuwendyk, Recchi, Roy, and Lemieux, Claude Lemieux. Sid now has a legit case for a Mount Rushmore of the best players in hockey history argument. Well done, now get another. So thank you very much, Scott. Great numbers, thank you for highlighting those. And I have to agree that while Crosby's career isn't over just yet, I think another cup here in 2026 may just have to solidify his place on the Mount Rushmore of hockey. Jumping over to Gabin's comment, who says, great video data and congrats on the great season and postseason. I don't think that Berkeley Catton is ready for a second line role. He was not bad, but although it clearly didn't matter, he did not pull his weight in the postseason, in my opinion. Now, I do agree that he wasn't great in the postseason. I think he had like 3 points. We were playing him on the 3rd line, 4th line, but he did have 44 points as a rookie on the 3rd line. Typically in EA land, rookies will get the short end of the stick in the postseason sim, so I think I might want to chalk it up more to that than anything. But I do agree that yes, Taylor Hall wants a fairly reasonable 4.1 million or so, which would be a reasonable deal. I would love to bring Taylor Hall back. He was a great experiment for us. We picked him up kind of as a toss-in in a trade at the draft last year, and he turned out to be a great piece for our middle six. But I think, as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th lines, there just aren't enough spots, especially with Crosby and Malkin still being here. And if Catton is going to grow to an 84, 85 overall, I think he does have to get top 6 minutes. Now, could he falter? Could he have to move down and someone else move up? Absolutely. But I think at this point, I don't want to overcommit as we almost did last offseason, where we almost got Pacioretty and almost got a couple other guys for the middle 6 and bottom 6 wings. Ended up, they didn't sign, and we didn't need them. So if it does end up that we need them come season start or sometime next year, yes, we will look into that. As of now, I think 2nd line left wing will be Berkeley Catton's position to lose. Moving on in the comments, to address the right D hole left by Letang, I would consider John Klingberg. His offensive capabilities would complement Zadorov's stay-at-home role nicely. He also shouldn't be too expensive. Can't wait for the next one. Thank you, Gavin. So when we're looking at potential free agents in the upcoming free agent class, there aren't really many potential UFAs who, 1, fit our timeline, and 2, replace the production that Chris Letang was giving us. Like, yes, John Carlson's going to put up 50 points, but he's a lifetime Caps player. He's 36, doesn't really work for us. Trouba is interesting. He did score 35 points, but as a lifer a former captain on the Rangers, and now having played with the 50-win Canadians, I don't know if he even hits free agency, so I don't know if I want to force a trade with them. Meanwhile, you see Damon Severson. He's interesting, but 3 points in 11 games last year. There's even Timothy Liljegren. Many people suggested him. He scored under 20 points last year. We don't need 50-60, but I'd like to see 30-40. And John Klingberg may be the only guy who fits the bill, having scored 45 points in 82 games on the Western Conference champion Minnesota Wild. Does he want to maybe think about leaving after coming so close and come to the team that beat them? Kind of like how we got Draisaitl after the Oilers beat us. Now it would be Klingberg lost to us and he comes to us to try and win with us. Kind of like a Marian Hossa type of thing. But at the same time, he is 33. So if you think who's actually the long-term fit on second pair right D, you look at free agents who are 2 years out. Cale Makar might be there, Brandon Montour, Brendan Carlo. 3 years out, potential UFAs who may be there. Dougie Hamilton, Adam Larson, but by then they're 36 as well. So who is the long-term fit there? I'm not really sure. But the good news is I don't think we're desperate to find someone today who is going to be there for the next 5-6 years. I think if we can just find someone to hold Letang's spot and still uphold some good production, kind of like a John Klingberg, I think we'd be in a good spot. Skimming through a couple more comments, I'm really excited to get into this offseason. Golden Gamer commenting that he is returning to comments. Could not have done it at a better time. Stanley Cup champs in the house. Way to go, Data, fulfilling the 5-year plan. Golden suggests trying to trade for a top 4 defenseman, not necessarily get someone who's going to be in free agency. And we could use the rights to Taylor Hall, Blake Wheeler, and even Joel Blomqvist, who we were thinking about would we move him. He would definitely be great to keep, but he's going to want to be a starter, and we have Blackwood, so we might as well trade him while his value is somewhat high. Getting an 80 to 82 overall backup should do for now. As for Wheeler and Hall, we won't be re-signing Wheeler despite his great playoff performance, and he'll be wanting too much, and I don't think Hall fits on the team anymore. I would put Berkeley Catton or even Braden DiMaio on that second line in place of Hall, and then call up Jaeger to take Catton's old spot on the third line. I like where you're going with this, Golden. Furthermore, about the goaltenders, just to mention, although Blomqvist would probably want to be a starter sooner rather than later, don't get fooled by the EA overall. Yes, he's an 84, and yes, he could be a starter, but keep in mind he's only had 2 seasons as a backup, and he's signed for 2 more years at $1.2 million here in Pittsburgh. So I don't think he's necessarily like itching to get out and find a starter's crease for his own just yet. Again, if it works, I'm sure he'd be happy, but if not, I'd bet that he's content to stay on this Cup champion team. As for free agency, if we aren't going to make a move in a trade for a defenseman, I would look at John Klingberg. He's only 33, so it's not the worst, as well as playing with a two-way guy like Zadorov. He would be right-handed. That works out for a lot of different fronts right there. Congratulations once again, Data. Let's get a banner up in the rafters for Letang. Maybe retire his number as well. I'd love to see that. Get Kessel behind the bench as a coach and rest up for next season. I'll keep up the reports as the offseason progresses. Assistant GM Golden out. Let's go Penguins. Thank you, Golden. Appreciate all those thoughts. The last YouTube comment that I want to skim through here comes from Cheating Heel. Well, you just love to see it. GM Data has done it again. We were somewhat afraid that scoring would be an issue with only 2 players over 70 points in the regular season. And the playoffs are usually harder to get goals in, but that team got the job done. Jumping down to what Cheating Heel says about the defense, Letang's retirement is a surprise. Good thing we have Ekblad, but it's still a big hole to fill. We really need to get someone to play in the top 4. Pickering can play with Smith on the third pair, that's good. Maybe we try to sign Liljegren or Severson on a short-term deal and hope that someone better is there next year. Offensive-wise, there will be a massive change. As you mentioned, DiMaio and Jaeger are likely making the team, maybe even Callan Lind if he grows. That would still leave some spots open as they'd be replacing Kessel, Wheeler, and let's say Zucker. This means we could re-sign Hall for 1 year or get someone younger in free agency, like maybe there's Eli Tolvanen, Kempe, Tippett, maybe even 1 year on Brad Marchand. And I don't think that's outlandish, but it would mean that Lundstrom plays on the 4th line. Lundstrom had a great season. He's an 82 overall now. I think we need him on the 3rd line. And if the 3rd is going to be Malkin, Lundstrom, and one of our young players, that doesn't leave room for a Taylor Hall or a Tolvanen or anyone else, unfortunately. And jumping down to Cheating Heel's closing thoughts, I think this really encapsulates what we're doing moving forward now that we've won the Stanley Cup. It's going to be a busy offseason, but now that we have achieved our goal, we don't have the extra pressure to win while being on a timer. We can afford to focus on growth and the future while still making an honest effort to keep on winning. But if it's not meant to be, it's A-OK. Go Pens. Thank you, Cheating Heel. I think that is very, very well said. Are we still going to be pushing for the Stanley Cup? 100%. But we no longer need to feel crazed and frantic and pressured. Deadline pickup, something's not going right, we got to push all the way. If it means scratching someone like Catton on the 4th line and our success comes at the expense of our younger players, then so be it. That kind of mindset isn't going to be here anymore. We still have our top players. We're still a top team. We're still, I would say, one of, if not the best team in the NHL. But we are now going to be prioritizing player development and looking at the future of this franchise, the second part of our 2-part mandate that we got when we came into Pittsburgh. Squeeze as much out of this core and get them another cup. Yes, we did that, but also set this team up for the future when Crosby, Malkin, and Letang are all gone. So I think that is exactly how we will be viewing this next season and even the next few seasons to come. The last comment that we'll cover comes from Wild Bronco over on the Discord server, but it starts with Intelligent Dice, who left a comment essentially saying it's time to trade out all the old depth in an effort to get younger. From there, Wild Bronco says, I agree with Intelligent Dice. We've accomplished our first goal of winning the core another cup. Now it's time to set the Pens up for the long-term future, especially with the series ending in the not-so-distant future as well. I would trade every veteran not named Crosby or Malkin for draft picks and make room for the youngsters like Jaeger and Pickering. Maybe add EK65, Erik Karlsson, if his price tag isn't too high to be the missing second pair guy, but only as a 1 to 2 year option. As far as the with goalies, I lean toward keeping Mackenzie Blackwood and letting Blomqvist go just because of Blackwood's proven track record in the EA-verse, which is, fickle goalies. But I can see the argument for Blomqvist if we want to commit 100% to the youth movement. So what I'm gleaming from these comments is, one, Blomqvist can definitely stay. If it works that we move him, we move him, but in EA land, goalies have barely any trade value, so it would probably make more sense than anything to keep him. And number two, on the right side of the second defensive pair, whoever we get, whether it be Klingberg, Severson, whoever, it's likely going to be a short-term fit. So if that's the case, I do really wonder, would it make sense to go out and look at Erik Karlsson? In the past, we couldn't get him, although we wanted to in year 1 and 2. We couldn't because we didn't have $11.5 million just to throw out there. But now with a ton of short-term cap, Erik Karlsson, who's an 84 overall and will have 1 year left on his $11.5 million deal, is a guy who just scored 7 goals and 68 points on a bad Sharks team. Yes, he was a negative 25, but he's still simulating very well. He could be a great replacement for Chris Letang in that 1 year window where we're still pushing for cups, still trying to make sure that our youngsters are surrounded by strong talent and good leadership. If the value that Erik Karlsson has is low enough, I could see it making sense to get him, as again, especially it's only a 1 year thing. It's basically, do we want John Klingberg for 1 or 2 years as an 83-year-old who scores like 40 points, or do we want Karlsson for 1 year, try and lock in a 60-point season, and then reevaluate who's going to hold that spot headed into 2027-28, or maybe even comes back at a much cheaper deal. Who knows? It would also be great to have Karlsson on the power play, because if Taylor Hall is gone and Chris Letang is retired, that leaves 2 spots to be filled by, I'm not really sure who, Lundstrom, Rust. We want them on the power play. I'd rather get Karlsson in there. He can quarterback the first or second unit, and then we can add someone else kind of as a complementary piece, as opposed to having one super strong unit and a second that has a bunch of two-way forwards and has no chemistry. So I do think headed into this draft, our number 1 target is Erik Karlsson, with the second being John Klingberg. It would be much easier to acquire Klingberg. It would just be his rights. But Erik Karlsson is very tempting. We'd be grabbing the time stone and correcting the timeline, getting Karlsson to the Penguins, playing for Pittsburgh just as he will be in the real world. And that will just make our 2026-27 squad that much more realistic. I love that we have no generated players. We had none in our Stanley Cup winning team. Now if we can get Karlsson, another real-life Penguin, in this squad on a team that he would be on in 2026-27, that would be another little plus for realism. But all that being said, we have to hop into the draft now. We don't pick until pick number 48, so definitely nothing going for us in round number 1. I can essentially just skip this entire first round. I'm going to use it to just save some time for trades, and although it's cool that the second and third overall pick are up for grabs, even number 7, number 8, I don't think we're even getting close to thinking about making a trade for one of these top picks. We do not have the trade value to get close. However, I do want to look at what the trade value would be if we wanted Erik Karlsson. Karlsson has some value, not as much as he would have for being like a 60-70 point guy because of his contract, but again, only 1 year left on it. He has top 6 potential, so he could regress a little bit more, but the key is that he is a good simulation player. So if I wanted to get him, first to just make the money work, I'll trade you one of the veterans here. Taylor Hall can go, since he could actually be someone that the Sharks would desire as well. So Hall can go. That makes the money work. Now, I don't have a ton of draft picks to make this work, unfortunately. We have 48, 96, and I want to draft with these picks. There's some good players that we want this year. I don't want to use picks next year. So if we dip into our rookie pool a little bit, Jaeger, DiMaio, all these guys are untouchable in my opinion. But I do think, I was looking at our pool of prospects, and I do think that Igor Yaskin, who was a third-round pick in 2025 last year, could be an interesting piece for us. He's 61 overall at 21 years of age, so will he become anything anytime soon? I don't think so. But will he become anything someday in his career? I think it could very well be. He scored 17 points in 55 games in the KHL, I would assume this past season, after like 3 years of nothing. So that's good to see. I think he has potential to do something in his career, but it might not be on our timeline. The Sharks, meanwhile, would probably have a lot more use for him longer term. The Senators take this guy medium elite 79 overall with their first selection. So I think if I throw Jaskin, plus it's better to get guys who I don't know how to pronounce their names for off the team. I would have committed to one eventually, but I never quite got it. So if I can go ahead and take Carlson from you, and I'm going to go ahead and offer you Jaskin, here he is, and the rights to Taylor Hall, I think that more than gets it done. Maybe we can go with the storyline that the Sharks want to start competing. Clearing up this money gives them like almost $20 million to play with in free agency, and we're doing them a favor, obviously, by taking Carlson off their hands. Now they might give us a little pick back the other way. It's just like how they had to give up when they gave up a lot to get him off their team today. Obviously, they'd give up less to get him off the team in 2026, but I bet we could still get something here. Could we get like the 80th overall selection in the 3rd round from St. Louis, and maybe even throw a 7th in there? They have a lot of picks here. They have a lot of picks. Yeah, let's get a 7th in 201st. So Jaskin and the rights to Taylor Hall in exchange for 1 year of Erik Karlsson, correcting the timeline and bringing him to Pittsburgh, and a 3rd and a 7th, so that you can have a lot more money to play with headed into this upcoming offseason. San Jose, what do you say to this? Trade accepted. All right. Erik Karlsson, welcome to Pittsburgh, Bello, correcting the timeline. Thanos has turned back the clock, and you are going to be joining us for the 2026-27 season to try to get one last cup for this squad, and you will be a part of it. Taylor Hall, thank you for your contributions to the Penguins and their cup run. It was a pleasure having you. You went above and beyond what we could have expected. And Jaskin, wish you all the best in your career. Erik Karlsson will play second pair right D for this next season. That fills up a spot. Like I said, this fits perfectly for this next year because we have the money. No big contracts to give out. With Wheeler walking, with Zucker walking, we'll only really have to give a contract to Evgeny Malkin if we're looking at players who are expiring down here. So I think this was the perfect timing to do so. Lundstrom, Zadorov, and Smith all have extensions kicking in. Yeah, it's really just Malkin who needs a contract. So this was the time to do it. I'm sure there'll be some people who disagree with the move, as $11.5 million could definitely be used somewhere else rather than a second pair defenseman. But again, keep in mind, it is only for 1 year. He is someone who simulates extremely well. And on top of that, like I said, like 3 or 4 times, it's fun to get him onto the Penguins, team that he would truly be playing for in this time in the real world. So it adds a little bit of realism. So with all that being said, let's sim to the next round, at least getting round number 1 over. Let's see, Ue, Kampanen, Afinogenov, Benino, McKenna, Gavin McKenna, real-life prospect going there. So a bunch of high 70 overall, medium elite kind of guys. How about this for a name? What's his first name? Mathieu Drouin de Laurier. Bienvenue au San Jose. Le Requin de San Jose. How about that? Aside from that, just a lot of 60s, 173 overall guy. Not the craziest draft class here. A lot of 60 overall, medium top 6, even medium top 9. Yikes, at the end of the first round. Ooh, a bunch of medium top 9, medium top 6D. So not the craziest first round, that's for sure. We have our 48th overall pick, which will be in 15 picks from now. A lot of top 9s and top 6s that we'll be happy to skip on. But now we see, okay, we'll get into the top 4 around the 40s. Top 6s are going to be around this low elite. Lashoff might be there. Low elite playmaker, medium elite goalie. Now we're going to skip on him. So our pick is at 48, correct? So I think we can go ahead. Yeah, we'll skip to there. I know there's going to be some good prospects who go before, but I don't think we have the value to really trade up. Let's just take whoever drops to us at that point because it's a bunch of top 6s essentially. Starting with this guy, top 6 going to the Sharks, top 9, top 4D. Top 6 forwards, couple, yeah, so there still should be some good options at number 48. We could take a medium top 6 forward. There's a couple of them. Actually, there's just one forward, Tate Girardi, who's 3 years away, medium top 6 playmaker, but I think it has to be the low elite left wing playmaker, Jay Lashoff from the Rimouski Oceanic. 3 years away, low elite, and could have some X factors. I think he's got to be the guy, even if he has a low overall now. Yes, there's a medium elite goalie, but we will be taking one later on, as opposed to taking Greg Kapusta now, who's 5 years away. We'll take someone else who's also 5 years away, medium elite, but later. After that, not much. So yeah, it's an obvious pick for me. Our first selection comes comes to number 48, and it will be Jay Lashoff from the QMJHL. Welcome to the Team Bello. You are 65 overall, low elite. Yeah, I'll take that. X Factor. Yes, X Factors. Okay. Tape to tape, spinorama, wheels, and all alone. He's got wheels with 2.5-star skating. Lovely. Okay, so we'll see what Jay Lashoff becomes in his career. Nice little selection at 48th overall. Don't mind if I do. Next pick comes at number 80. Let's end the second round. I don't think that anything else really interested us in that second round. Then I'll check who is pinned for us, because there's going to be a few into these later rounds. Top 6D, that medium league goalie was 49 overall. Yikes. A lot of guys that we would not have been interested in at all. Low top 6, low top 4D. Yep. All right. Third round, number 65. So again, we pick in 15 selections. Oh yeah, it's true. We have St. Louis's here again. We picked up from the Sharks. So low top 6 gem is going to go first here. Keith Irwin, 3 years away. That's interesting. But there's other top 6 gems later on that will be just as interesting in my opinion. Even some defensemen here. Franklin McLean, low top 4D. Who's this guy? César Réaume, low top 4 as well. Who are our pinned prospects? They don't go until a bit later. The first guy would be medium elite at 92. Maybe we take him actually, Mats Backstrom. Or maybe even trade down a little bit to try and recoup another one to get a pick in the 100s for these Wakabayashi and Rensfeldt. So if we could pick 3 times between like 85 and 95, that would be ideal. So I think what I'll do is allow the clock to run on a few of these picks, and I'm going to try to work out a deal to swing that possibility for us. So I'm going to see if Florida wants to swap thirds with me. I'll give you 80 for 92, and you toss in 188. Of course, not sufficient at all. You move up 12 spots, half a round almost, and you can't just give me a 6th round pick. All right, how about number 220? Let me guess, you're going to laugh me out of the room, right? Too far off. You've met the block needs, but you know what? It's too far off. Last thing I can do is a 7th in 2027. Can I get a 7th next year? Rejected. Okay, so I guess forget it. Forget it. I'm going to just draft the guy I want at 80. I'm going to reach for him at 80 and take the guy I want at 80. Ridiculous. Or you know what? Maybe I play a game here. Maybe I really play a game here. Maybe I draft Volkov. You know what? Here's just me saying just a big, like, I don't care to EA land. Volkov's going to get drafted, and I'm going to trade him to the Panthers for that pick and a 7th. Now what do you say, huh? Volkov for a 3rd and a 7th. Rejected. You're not where you need to be. Okay. Straight up, trade accept. There you go. Take him. Take him. That's the guy you would have taken anyways. And I'm going to go to 92 and take my guy. Oh my goodness. I hate these AI GMs. All right, here's what I would have taken anyways at pick number 80. Just a lot more pain that I have to go through to get here. Mats Backstrom from Liga, medium elite, 18-year-old playmaker, 5 years away, but medium elite potential. We'll see what he becomes, if anything. We love to get that trade value, and there you go, 48 overall. These are guys that help us out in trades, kind of like what Jaskin just did for us there. But Mats Backstrom, welcome to the team. Pick number 96. I forgot we already had this pick, so we actually only need to trade for 1, because with number 96, we'll take Wakabayashi right here. 18-year-old playmaker, same thing, probably 5 years away. E-skating, yeah, classic, but we love that medium elite potential. So get in there, Wakabayashi. You are probably somewhere in the same overall range, actually, with the e-skating and all that. He is 48 overall as well. So 2 48 overall medium elite players. Maybe they become nothing. That's actually not the greatest, because we need players who actually will become something, but it is good for the trade value. Now, we want one more selection, so we can take Rensfeldt. Here he is. He's going to go around 107. Also medium elite. This guy's 3 years away, thank goodness, so he could actually become a player. He's a gem. Let's try and get a pick around 104, 105. Let's see how hard I get squeezed now. I want to move up, 24 selections. I want to move down 12 spots. I can't get a 7th. I want to move up 24 spots. Let's see if it's going to cost me a 3rd next season, right? Oh, wow! Okay. The fans be cheering in the streets. Thank you, New Jersey. Thank you. A little bit of respect and compassion, as it only costs us a 7th to move up. I guess the later picks are worth less, so I guess it's easier to do so, but still, Okay, and with this fourth pick at number 104, Christian Rensfeldt from Rogel of the SHL, medium elite, 3 years away, and 66 overall. How about that? That's a great pick. 66 overall playmaker with medium elite potential, 4-star puck skills, 90 passing. I'm just realizing that. Wow, Christian Rensfeldt, welcome to the Penguins organization. Great pick. Great pick. Our next comes at number 192. Who do we have pinned between now and then? Still a bunch pinned, but many we probably won't get. Like this guy I really want, though. Tyler Baker at 131, medium elite goalie. So I think I'm going to make a trade to make that one happen. But a few guys here, like medium top 6 at 115, a gem, 5 years away, East skating, another like 40 overall guy. I'm just going to unpin him. It's not going to happen. But number one priority will be Tyler Baker. He is a goalie, and he also plays goalie. His secondary position is goalie, so that's good to know. 6'4". 5 years away as well, but medium elite, and get him at a 4th round pick value as opposed to like a 2nd round pick value. So let's try and make that happen. See if I can just trade a couple of randos here in the AHL, like McCleary and Legare, who's now in the Canadian system. 74, 20. Yeah, why not? Let's trade them for this. Oh, now I have too many skaters. So I'd have to give you Legare and someone unsigned. Who do we got here who's unsigned? I think I saw one. Is it Theriot? Yeah, 50 overall, 19 years of age. Low top 4D potential. That's not bad. But Jacques Theriot, 5th round pick. Offensive defenseman, scored 9 points in AHL, 46. I don't like it. I don't like it. So Theriot can actually just do it straight up probably, and maybe even get a 7th out of it. Send me 193. What do you say to this, Detroit? Not rejected. All right, just the 5th. Accepted. All right, thank you very much. Theriot off to Detroit. And I get to draft a medium elite goalie instead of having that low top 4D who was a 50 overall. Everybody's happy. So welcome to the organization, Mr. Baker. There was this low elite defensive defenseman, Davis Alanko. Not E skating, that's rare, D- only, but we got to go for the goalie. We have none in our system. Tyler Baker from the USA East, possibly a Penguins fan growing up, 6'4", 47 overall, but welcome to the team with medium elite potential. Hopefully you can be starting in 5 or 6 years. From there, we pick at number 192 now. We'll probably have to pass on getting a few of these guys. Like Alanko's not going to happen at 133. Just don't have the value to do all these deals, so unpin him. And I don't think we can get Fenton either. Low elite at 181. Another guy who's 5 years away. Two-way D, though. Even this guy, Enforcer. Walter Garnett. So I'll unpin them. That leaves 3 guys. I didn't unpin Fenton yet. Maybe we could still get him, though. I like getting a two-way D. I know he's 5 years away, but usually these defensemen are always defensive defensemen. I would like to get him in the system if possible. Then these later guys, McAllister and Weaver, within the 200s and 300s. So she's more like 174. And our pick's 192. I don't think it's going to work. Unless I could get Carolina to give me 171 in exchange for 192 and Legare. All right, trade accepted. I was about to give up on that one. Okay. So we'll go to pick 171 and take the guy we want there. And then with our last 2 picks in the 200s, we get the last 2 guys that we had pinned. Okay. So Fenton, you're coming into the system. Left D, two-way D, 18 years of age, and 6'4" is a two-way D. He is 50 overall, low elite as expected. So welcome to the organization, my friend. Get him in. And then with our last 2 picks at 201 and I think like 208, we'll take the last 2 guys that we have pinned here with our 7th round picks. Even though they'd go even later, maybe we could trade back, play games for 7s. I'm not going to go ahead and do that. I just want to take my guys. Troy Weaver, 17-year-old, low top 6, USA East, 5 years away. Lots of low overall guys in this draft, but good potentials. 50 overall, low top 6. And at pick number 208, we'll take McAllister, Jamal McAllister from USA West, 5 years away again. But it's all about that potential. All right, Jamal, welcome aboard, 48 overall. And there is the draft. Not much that will be helping us in the next year or 2. What can be expected? We don't have any first-round picks, right? But I think we got a lot of good value, a few good medium elites in there. We got a goalie in our system, some lower guys who, again, may just be used in trades. But as we saw in the Carlson deal, those guys can be the difference between whether you get someone or you don't. So all that's done. Let's sim to the re-sign phase now. We need to re-sign that scout. Okay, very good. I'll take care of the scout in a moment. And of course, I'm just remembering that, yes, I traded Taylor Hall's rights, but I forgot about trading the rights to like Wheeler or Engvall or Zucker. We could have gotten a few more 7ths, but you know, no other team does that. We can't do it every year, I suppose. So We'll just move on. Sorry, I totally forgot about that. I traded Hall's rights, and I forgot about anybody else. Blake Wheeler at an 80 overall with bottom 6 potential, wants $4.6 million. Bye-bye. You got your ring, got your name on the cup. We'll see you later. Ryan Suter at 41 years of age. I'm surprised he hasn't retired. Good luck finding a contract, buddy. I don't think you will, but it was nice having you. Gildon, we had him as depth. We'll release him now. Hayek was good in depth as well, but we already have Ian Mitchell. He wants $1.1 million. I'd rather get league minimum guys, so Hayek will also walk. Of the UFAs, that just leaves a few more. Pierre Engvall, if he wants like $1 million, I'd bring him back for the fourth line. He wants 2.2. Sorry, buddy. It's been nice having you for the last couple seasons. He got his Stanley Cup ring, did what we brought him in to do, bringing the size to the fourth line, but we will release him now. Jason Zucker, if he wants a low deal, maybe I'd think about him. Yeah. For fourth line left wing, he does well in the penalty kill. He spent a lot of years here. He was mostly in the press box this last season, but he got his Stanley Cup. I bet he's happy. Plus, he's not asking for much. So if he wants to sign, I think I will. But if he doesn't, we'll let him go. And Malkin wants, we're going to do 1 year on him, 3.375. 85% of that is 2.86. I think 1 year, $3 million is fair for a guy who's mostly on the third line now. So 1 year, $3 million for Gino. That we have 13.465, by the way. We still have $10 million to play with. Jason Zucker, you know what? We have the money, and 82 overall in the fourth line doesn't hurt. He'll get pound to kill time. I think if the storyline fits that he'd be happy to come back. I'm not going to lowball him too much. I think 1 year at 1.5 is fair. I'm not going to 85% him there. So 1 year, 1.5. O'Connor, 76 overall. I like O'Connor. I think he can come back at least in the AHL. Maybe, who knows, he turns into depth if we run into injuries. Let's try O'Connor for another year. And of course, we'll get Petrell and Lashoff signed on. Lashoff was a second-round pick, in 2024. Offensive defenseman. Great stats in the AHL. So, in the juniors. Whatever league he's playing in the USA. Petrell will come in. He has low elite potential. He has a lot of X factors as well. He was a second-round pick in 2024, so I'm excited to see what he does in the AHL. And Lashoff will also be joining that AHL squad. All right, so there are the UFAs. RFAs now. Most of these guys are going to be walking, and I think we're going to replace a lot of these guys in free agency this year. We're getting to that point in the team where there's going to be a lot of turnover in the AHL. A lot of these like 25, 26-year-old guys with low potential, I'm not going to bother bringing them back, so I'll take care of that off screen in a moment. Other unsigned players, it's time to give DiMaio his contract because he'll be pushing for the NHL this year, and I'm ready to give him his entry-level deal. The 9th overall pick in the 2025 draft. Happy to have him on board with his 4.5-star shooting. Excited to see what he becomes. Braden DiMaio. I'm tempted about Sasha Ab, first-round pick, 21st overall last year, but I'm not sure if he's ready to make the jump just yet. We'll wait a bit more. And aside from that, I think we're just about ready to simulate a day. So let's do exactly that. Malkin is interested in principle, but he wants a 2-year deal. I'll just increase the money a bit. Same for Zucker, but the rest sign on. Okay. So I'll try Malkin at 3.25. I really don't want to budge from 1 year. So 3.25 for him. Same for Jason Zucker. I'll give you exactly what you're looking for. 1 year, $6 million, but I don't want to budge off of 1 year. RFAs, I'll take care of those now. All right, advancing a day. Let's see what those two guys have to say. Evgeny Malkin, easy decision to resign. Very good. And same for Jason Zucker. All righty. And then a few more of those RFA guys. Very good. So that just about does it for the resign phase. And we'll head into free agency with $10.5 million. Again, keep in mind the lines that we're thinking about as of now. Our top 12 forwards are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10... And I think after that, Nate Smith, 11. So that pretty much leaves like a fourth line spot for someone in free agency, or maybe Jake Neighbors comes up, maybe someone else in our AHL system. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then even 11, Nate Smith, and 12, Jaeger. So you know what? Then Neighbors as depth. Maybe we don't need to sign anybody. I'm sure Penguins ownership would love to not have to spend an extra $10 million. You don't have to always spend to the cap. On defense, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pickering in there as well. Yeah, I don't think we need to go out there and spend a lot of money. Flexibility never hurts. Plus, maybe we can take on some bad contracts. We can kind of weaponize that cap. Too bad it's not the real world. The AI GMs don't know that I'm doing them a favor. But yeah, that being said, I think we can go ahead and advance to July 1st. Got the 1 scout signed back. And let's go ahead and get to the beginning of unrestricted free agency. Okay, here we are. Contract limit, blah, blah, blah. Let's see who dropped to the UFA market. who would have been there if we were still looking to fill certain spots. Robertson is, oh my goodness, let's go to the UFAs. We see Victor Hedman did end up dropping. We were thinking about, it would be cool to get a big name, but again, the timeline, he's 35, Carlson is 36. Other names, Schmaltz, Barbashev, Tolvanen did end up dropping to free agency. Kempe, Marchand, 1 year, $9.1 million he wants. My goodness. Trouba drop, but here you go. Like, Trouba would be interesting, but 3 teams want him at $5.9 million. So we have to sign him to a 4-year deal, bring him to the age of 35, paying him like 6.5 per season. So I think I'm content with the 1-year stopgap in Erik Karlsson. He'll add some offense. We'll try to get him a cup. He brings some realism, and then we'll reevaluate that spot in the top 4 come next offseason. What I'll take care of now is looking at if there are any new scouts who are available. I'm going to send a contract to Phil Kessel to join our coaching staff. Then from there, we'll get back into free agency. See if there's any young players to sign on, etc. before we move on to the beginning of the preseason. All right, that's taken care of. Now let's get back into free agency. We'll have a lot of spots to fill down in the AHL, so let's check it out here. If we go ahead and look at the UFAs and then sort by potential, and looking at the age on the right as well. Bartasak here, a potential medium top 6 guy, low top 6 hope, but they're 53 overall. Guys like that, 24, not many, eh? Kniazev, former favorite with the Sharks franchise. That's interesting. Wieland, 23 years of age. All right, so I'm going to scroll through some more, send out a few contracts. I'm going to evaluate the AHL lineup on my own and just send out a few deals and see what I can get hammered out. For the NHL, though, if we're thinking about a depth guy, someone on the 4th who maybe could even slot up to the 3rd if need be. If we look at guys who are like 81 and listed as 4th-line forwards, you got Mathieu Joseph, Morgan Geekie, depth forward guys like Zach Parise, Maxime Comtois. A lot of depth forwards here. Even Patrick Kane is out here. A lot of teams interested in him, though. Even though he's an 80 overall, he still puts up those numbers. Alex Nylander never panned out here with us. So I'd prefer someone who's not like a depth scorer who should be higher in the lineup, like a Pacioretty or an Eberle. I'd prefer really someone like a Greenway. So Greenway might end up being my guy, but I'm going to do some more research on it, send out a contract, advance a few days, and I'll keep you updated. All right, so I've done my research. I've come to a conclusion here, especially with so much money to spend. I'm not going to be looking at what the player wants. I'm just looking at who's the best fit, who has the best defensive attributes, and I believe that it is Eric Robinson. He scored 33 points last season, playing only 11.5 minutes per night. He's listed as a 4th liner. He's an 81 overall, 3.5-star defense, which isn't crazy amazing, but it is pretty much par for the course. Plus, it's a higher defensive awareness than most of these guys have. 4-star physical to boot. He's 6'2". I like his simulation. That's why he's asking for $2.8 million, and I'd be okay with giving it to him, even though he is a 4th liner. I think maybe 2.8 is a bit high. I'm going to try 1 year at 2.5. I definitely wouldn't give that to the typical 4th line depth 13th forward person, but I think with so much money to spend, you may as well go for the better option than Greenway, for example, who may sound good on paper, but 8 points, -11, playing 7 minutes a night last year. In his career simulation numbers, just not good. 83 defensive awareness as opposed to 85. Every little thing counts. So Robinson's offer has been sent out. I'll send out a few more to some younger players, and then we'll advance a few days and see who's signing on. And by the way, I just noticed John Klingberg here in free agency. It's probably a good thing we didn't acquire him. He wanted $7.85 million for 4 years. Yes, he wanted less for 1, 2, or 3 years, so maybe we could have gotten him 3 years at $6 million, but that would have been, into the 35, 36 years of age range. I think it would have been more than I would have wanted to pay him. It probably would have been a 1-year contract at like $6 million in the end. So if it came down to 1 year, $6 million on Klingberg, or 1 year, 11.5 on Karlsson, and we have money to burn, Karlsson's my guy. That's all taken care of. Let's go ahead and advance a few days now and see who's signing on. Not much to do here in the contract phase. We've got one more scout on board. Very good. Phil Kessel, my sources tell me your staff chemistry is excellent. How would you know? So I'm hopeful I can join the staff with little drama. I gladly accept. Now here's something very interesting. This is not the picture that Kessel has when he is a player. When Kessel was a player, and in all of NHL 23, Kessel's picture, his headshot, is that of with the Arizona Coyotes. But now it's not because we signed him that he's back with a Penguins shirt. It's because he's gone into this coach or staff role. So I don't know if that's with every player that they revert to an older picture, if that's just something I just caught right now. But Kessel's back in a Penguins shirt, and it is very fitting. Now, I signed him on as our assistant coach, but he cannot be there just yet. He is going to have to do his time in the AHL, I believe. So this guy goes back to being our NHL assistant coach, actually. And Kessel can be our AHL associate coach, and he will work through the ranks before becoming someday on the NHL staff, because I'd like to fill the last spot with an actual NHL goalie coach, or at least someone who has goalie as their teaching specialty. Let's see if the game has generated any this year. Yeah, there's a few, but they're all D-. It's so rare to see like any that are, especially none that are D. I think D is the best we see out here. Even E, beautiful. Anybody else? C-. Okay, C-. I have C- going once. Another C- there. Okay, C- going twice, and that's it. So we got 2 C- goalie coaches. Does it really matter? I don't think we've even had one in the last couple of years. So I don't know if I want to hurt my coaching staff by bringing in a C- guy when I could have like a B-rated guy. Quinton Hall has good coach influence, even good teaching. Like, let's go ahead and bring this guy in. Again, same trick I just pulled. Yeah, okay, you'll be the associate coach. You got it, buddy. And then actually I'll have to demote you to something else. Okay, so another thing I'll have to wait for. More coaching musical chairs. This has not been the busiest off-season, but I feel like I've been doing a lot of different like administration things and not justifying, but okay, Quinton Hall's on board. Kind of like talking through my point of view on things. Eric Robinson on board, beautiful. A few other prospects, good. Everyone's here, lovely. Back to musical chairs. Let's get Quinton Hall demoted. Fukale back to associate. Carpenter, actually no, sorry, it's Carpenter is the associate. Carpenter back to associate, Fukale to assistant, Hall to NHL goalie. Then that leaves the AHL staff like this, and we can still have one spot open in the AHL goalie coach so that we can still move people around when we need to play musical chairs. So I think that's just about it. That leaves us $8.79 million. Probably, realistic that we have about this much money dedicated to our team in 2026, because the actual salary cap won't be as high as the game has made it. The last thing we got to do before we sim to the start of next season to see what kind of development we've had over the offseason will be to generate our draft classes for next year. I don't think I've done it yet this series, but if you've been in other series, you would have already known. The draft class quality and generated prospect quality, I've kept it medium, but now we're going to try a number randomizer to see if either of these settings will be low, medium, or high headed into the 2027 draft, which I believe is the first one with no actual real-world prospects. So with the number generator, I think we'll do, in the past I've done 1 to 20, 1 to 30. Let's do 1 to 25 this year. 1 to 25 will be low, 25 to 74 will be medium, and 75 to 100 will be high. So pulling out the old laptop here, generating a number for draft class quality, I get 73, which will be medium, almost high, and generated prospect quality, hitting generate, gives me 41, so pretty anticlimactic actually, but it's going to be a medium draft class once again headed into next year. And we'll do this again next offseason. All right, everything's been taken care of. The team is pretty much ready to go. Any questions that we have now cannot be answered until we get to September. So let's sim until that point and see how everyone looks. Enjoy your summers, everyone. Have a great day with the cup. Eat well, train hard, sleep as much as you can, and I'll see you for training camp. All right, off-season's over. I hope everyone enjoyed their day with the cup. Everyone had hot dogs over at Kessel's place. Now I'm going to go ahead and edit the lines as to what I think the lines will look like to start the season and give you a rundown of how things are looking. Okay, so here's how we're potentially looking headed into year number 4. Let me explain a few things. First line, same as always, Gensel, Draisaitl, DeBrincat, +5, no problem. On the second line, we see Cadden at an 83. He's still listed as a third line scoring forward, but keep in mind, 99 passing, 99 puck control, very useful as a playmaker if the right finishers are on that line. If we keep Crosby and Malkin on the second line, Crosby now 39, Malkin now 40, that gives the second line a +5. So Cadden, Crosby, Malkin are now 88, 88, 87. If we go Rust, Lundstrom, and DeMaio on the third line, they get a +2. If we swap Rust and Malkin, it's +3, +1. If we don't, it's +5, +2. So Rust now is 34, he's an 83, with Lundstrom who's an 82, and DeMaio who has grown to an 80 overall. He has to be in the NHL, no doubt about it. Listed as a fourth line forward, stayed overseas for an extra year, 19 points in 59 games last year in Liga. He's going to be in the NHL squad. Now the fourth line right now is Robinson, who is an 81 overall, with Nate Smith at an 80, and Braden Yeager, who's still a 76. Now, I don't want to rush Braden Yeager, but he was a first-round pick back in 2023. Now he is 21 years of age. Since being drafted, he has spent 2 more years in the WHL, 1 year in the AHL, where he was almost point per game. He won a couple of awards as well, but he's still a 76, listed as an other forward. The question is, do we send Yeager back down to continue as first-line center in the AHL, and then bring in, let's say, Jason Zucker to be 13th, to play fourth line, and Jake Neighbors is 13th forward? Or do we just say, no, it's time for him to make it, let's push him into the NHL, let's give him bottom 6 minutes? If he was in the highest, like 78, 79 range, I probably would have said let's push it. But he's a 76. I don't think he can stay on this team. I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say about that, and we'll see in the preseason, but I don't think he can stay. On defense, we already know top pair is Morrissey and Ekblad with the +3. Keep in mind that we could add or remove up to 3 X factors from up to 3 players. I would think we'd probably give one to Josh Morrissey, like a gold one, after scoring 64 points this past year. Maybe Ekblad gets one. I know he already has Heat Seeker, maybe gets one like Ice Pack for blocking shots. I'd have to look a bit more at the attributes, but let me know if you want me to add any, if you have any suggestions for X factors on anybody. The second pair is Zadorov and Carlson. That gets a +1. Carlson is still an 84 overall. He now has 7th D potential, which is horrible. But if he still has the X factors, he's still an 84. He's still getting ice time. We'll give him power play. I still think he can hit 60+ points with us. So Carlson will play second pair, and Ty Smith is now up to an 81. He has a +2 with Pickering on the third pair. Same conundrum for Pickering as for Yeager. Pickering was a 2022 first-round pick. Since being drafted, he spent 2 more years in juniors and then 2 years in the AHL. He was a first-round pick 4 years ago. He's now 22. Do we push him to make it into the NHL? He's listed as a minor top 4D, but he's 22. It might be time to push him more than it's time to push Yeager. That's kind of my thought process here. 7th D at the moment is Ian Mitchell at an 80 overall. We picked him off waivers. We got Lundstrom off waivers, so hey, the waivers have been helpful to us. Blackwood and Blomqvist are both still 84 overall, so no change there. Down in the AHL, if you're curious about any growth that we've had there, I haven't really done the lines too much, but we see Callan Lind is up to a 75 overall. Petrell's at a 71 with all of the X factors. We have Stankoven now in the organization. Obviously, it would mean a lot more in the real world, but he's a 23-year-old who is a 76 overall. Aside from that, not much drafted potential out here. We have Lashoff, who we drafted, but the rest of the guys have been signed or traded for. And goaltender still Götze and Lindbergh. So there's a quick recap on the organization. I would say pretty much the top 6/9 is locked up. It's more the fourth line here for the forwards that we're thinking about, and the third pair on defense. Also keep in mind, yes, we like this top 6 on paper. They have 2+5s, but Crosby 39, Malkin 40. If they start to slow down or regress, can Rust or DeMaio come into that top 6? I don't know, but let's say they can't. Then what do? Do we really go out and get a new top 9 forward and DeMaio now gets bumped to the fourth line? I don't think so. That's what I was kind of talking about in this transitionary type of year where we're still pushing, we're still a good team, we'll still do our best, but we might just have to swallow the fact that we're really trying to look towards the future and it may cost us a bit of success this year to do so. Also, now that Chris Letang has retired, that leaves an opening for one of our alternate captaincies. Crosby still our captain, Evgeny Malkin first alternate, but second alternate, we have a lot of good candidates, Brian Rust, Jake Gensel, players who have been here for a while, but I think it has to go to Leon Draisaitl, player who is taking over as face of the franchise. There are a lot of other good candidates who will come once Malkin and Crosby retire. Like I said, Gensel, Rust, even guys like Morrissey, Ekblad. So their time will come, but I think third alternate for this next season has to go to Draisaitl, signed to his big contract, coming off the Conn Smythe. he's earned it. So not much more to add in that regard. I'm going to go ahead and send out the scouts and organize everything to start off the season, and we'll stop there in the simulation. What we can do is check the trade blocks around the NHL in case anyone piques your fancy. Next episode will be an entire full season sim, 2026-27. So keep in mind, any suggestions you may have don't have to be for right now. They could be keep this player in mind around the deadline type of thing. So let's start scrolling through. Asplund, Heinen, TVR over in Anaheim. Arizona, Sean Walker, Shattenkirk, Dumoulin, former Penguin Dumoulin. That's a big contract. Chatfield, Middleton, and Phillips. Boston has prospects. Buffalo has prospects. Keep those in mind as well. Calgary, Rasmus Anderson, huge contract. He's B on a one-year deal. Mackenzie Weegar, Stamkos, who just signed. Nazem Kadri, Donato, Pitlick, Parise, who's 42. Tyson Jost, a few names here in Calgary. Carolina, we see prospects. Chicago, we see prospects. Dickinson, Beagle, Price, some decent names with decent potential, actually. Colorado prospects, Columbus, Jonathan Drouin, who was incredible in our San Jose Sharks franchise mode. He has 2 years left, only at 1.7 as an 82 overall. Jonathan Drouin might be someone to consider. Okay. Bluger, Bemstrom, Dickinson. Dallas, we see Tyler Bertuzzi, expiring deal, 87 overall. Okay, interesting. Roslovic, Arvidsson, 2 years left. Sagan, expiring deal. Joseph, Orlov, Colton, Achari. Detroit, we see prospects. Delzato still out here. Love it. Thomas Tatar. That's a ton of trade value for a 77 overall with AHL top 6 potential. That's really bizarre. Edmonton, we see Hyman, Comfort, Lee, and Curtis Lazar. Florida, nobody. LA Kings, Yafalo, Fabry, Fajimo, Appleton, Balsers, and Will Butcher. Minnesota, Eriksson Ek, Brodin, Severson, Weidman, Spurgeon, Goudreau, Greenway, Howden. Lots of names, but few with expiring deals in Minnesota. Les Canadiens de Montréal, lots of prospects, including Quentin Musty, Owen Beck, Joshua Roy, Philip Massar. Interesting, a lot of real-world prospects there. Nashville Predators, nobody. New Jersey prospects. Islanders, Kivi Haru and other prospects. We've seen Kivi Haru in the past. Rangers prospects. Senators, John Klingberg, there he is, signed 4 years at 7.925. And Barry signed 2 years at 8.5. Smart roster management there from the AIGM. Ball in Philadelphia. Hurdle, Jenner, John Leonard, Smith, Kuznetsov, with a ton of trade value in San Jose. McCabe, Mahura, Nemeth, Giroux. A lot of expiring deals. Logan Couture. Okay, keep those guys in mind for guys like let's go get them a cup type of thing if we're in that mindset at the deadline. A lot of good names here in San Jose. Seattle, Lizotte, and a prospect. St. Louis, prospects. Tampa Bay, prospects. Toronto, nobody. Vancouver, Hronek, big contract from him at 88 overall. Caleb Jones and a few other names, including Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Lots of names in Vegas. Max Chassot, Knizov, Carlson, Kopitar, Roy, Soucy, Backstrom. So more expiring names of mostly veterans to keep in mind. Washington, nobody, and Winnipeg, Ehlers, Dubois, Forsling, Graves, Wallman, Grizzlick. Wow. Alexandre Carrier, Logan Stanley. There are a ton of names on the block this offseason headed into 2026-27. So, ladies and gentlemen, that just about does it. As always, we can think about contract extensions to some other players, but I think we'll save that for after next episode. As of now, we're just thinking headed into year number 4, trying our best to develop our youth while still staying strong. In free agency, I don't think anyone too interesting, not just 79 overall and below, so I don't think we need to worry about that too much. What we're really worrying about is who makes our team and who doesn't. From there, I'm looking forward to a great 2026-27 simulation, which I'm 99.9% sure will all be in one episode as opposed to 2 as we were doing previously, as we want to try and speed up the process unless something major happens. But if something major does happen, that's why I turn to the assistant general managers who are always on call over in the Discord server. So if you haven't joined already, be sure to do so. The link is in the description, where yes, we're talking our franchise mode, but also your franchise mode, the world of sports, and much more. Something we're doing in the Discord server right now, just to let you know at the end of the episode, I wanted to inform you all, we're starting to look at a Data 782 Hall of Fame. From NHL 18 to NHL 23, thinking about all of the legends that we have had in all of our franchise mode series, and starting to think about who makes it into the Data Hall of Fame. So if you want to vote on that ballot and be a part of our Hall of Fame committee, that's something else that's going on over on the Discord server. It is such a great community and will be that much greater with you as a part of it. As we get closer to 7,000 subscribers, be sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already. And if you enjoyed this off season, be sure to leave a like. Headed into year number 4 as we'll try to repeat with some more growth from our team, some more aging from our veterans, but Erik Karlsson back in the squad. The timeline has been corrected. I'm looking forward to what he does now that we are in our first season without Chris Letang. Let me know your thoughts on any X factors that should be added to anybody. It doesn't have to be specific, just if anyone in particular should receive them. Should we be retiring Letang and or Kessel's numbers? A few things to think about down here in the comments or over on the Discord server. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for taking the time to enjoy the 2026 off season. A good draft for the distant future while we try to balance that while winning in the present day. So thank you once again for taking the time to watch, and I'm looking forward to reading all your thoughts and seeing you once again in the next one.